So Nasty C's new project is revealing a lot more than what meets the eye. Some lyrics have meaning to them. Some lyrics are answers to questions that we've been asking ourselves as Nasty C fans. But some lyrics are truths that we never want to unfold. And I know you're wondering, how does Nota come into the picture? What am I talking about? Let's get into it.
I think sometimes
I'm hard on him.
You go too hard.
So do you not think that I go so hard on him because of how much I believe in him, how talented he is?
Yeah, I actually do. I think there is a part of that's there, but a part of that also makes me feel like maybe you want to manage him, maybe.
Well, I am. I'm managing him from afar. No, seriously, because I have to manage his managers.
So if y'all remember, there was a point when Nasty C and Nota were literally on each other's necks, and I even made a complete video on their relationship. But this time I want to talk about whether or not Nota was right about the Def Jam deal. Was he right about Zulu Man with some power? Was he right about where the standard of the game is right now?
He doesn't speak like any of the people that are in his Origins documentary. Doesn't sound like them, doesn't seem like them, because he saw himself as a little American. And he's got this fantasy that I live in America. LA palm trees, as if Durban doesn't have its own palm trees.
Yeah, that'll be.
You understand what I'm saying? Rhyming Steve Biko with Deep Throat.
Okay, yeah.
You understand what I'm saying?
That was uncalled for.
That's just like, why? Calling your album Zulu Man with some power because No ID gave you that idea. I mean, Dion, yeah, he's cool, but Dion is not an authority in South Africa or South African culture.
So you think that whole album didn't represent South Africa?
Or the whole album was cap. The name of it was cap. You should have called it something else. Should have called it Coming to America.
There wasn't even a Zulu song in there, you know. Yeah.
So we know that Nota had a problem with the way Zulu Man with some power sounded, obviously based on the ideology the project had. I mean, I also felt though the project needed to represent home and appeal more to home rather than America. Nasty C, of course, protected himself and said that his idea for the whole project was for the project to take him globally, and that this was an introduction that was meant to be international.
See, that's another thing. These people want to come and judge. They don't even know what your plan was in the first place. I know what I wanted to do with the album. My album and the whole title and the logo, the whole aesthetic, everything.
So Nasty C was so adamant on knowing what he intended to do for the album, he even doubled down to say that it actually did what it was supposed to do. So the name of the album and the concept of Zulu Man with some power, or the spark of the idea, was actually from No ID, who's an American producer. So when Nasty C was asked about the story behind the title, he said, so it was inspired by a conversation that I had with No ID first time I met him. We had a very long conversation about just music, the similarities and the story of history repeating itself, and just about culture and how a lot of artists were able to move from one territory to another, but take their culture with them. One of the main references he made was Snoop and how he took the whole West Coast stuff with the braids and the accessory that you put on the braids, the little dangly thing the girls wear, the ones that put the big ones. You remember the big ones that he had. So those with the bike and the colorful clothes and stuff. And he took the culture and made it cool in New York, where it was mostly all black outfits, like gangster attire and Timbs, right? That one really stuck out for me. And I was like, okay, cool, dope. Look at the effects of that. Like, you see now rappers that come out of New York with braids, just like Snoop.
What I'm trying to do is, I'm going global, but at the same time, I'm trying to make sure that as I do that, people know who I am, they know where I come from, they know what I rep, and it's not too hard or too harsh for them to digest. They can still say, okay, cool. His music is actually fucking fire, though. Like, I understand everything he's saying.
Nota was standing on the fact that how can No ID inspire him to make an album about home when he isn't even from South Africa? When he doesn't even hold any sort of position of culture in SA hip-hop? What made Nasty C think it was a good idea to take that kind of advice from him?
About Nasty C are lost right now. He came up into the game, he got all to the highest heights, and then he's now back at ground level, performing at nightclubs and whatnot. We shouldn't see that as a failure. We should take a lesson in that. It's because if you deny your identity, you'll be left with nothing. Blackie has now come in. He's now the new kid that everybody's, hey, Blackie. It's as if Nasty C didn't exist. But there would not be a Blackie without the success of Nasty C. If Nasty C was not successful in what he was doing, Blackie wouldn't have had proof of concept. So we cannot create a situation where Blackie will now, 2 years from now, look at Nasty C and say, you are lame. Because that's what we did with Zola. And then look what happened after that. Then the kids that came after that did not see him as someone they could look up to. And now we don't have someone.
So another thing I want to talk about is just how much Nota spoke about the Def Jam deal. He openly said that Nasty C's deal was a bad deal and that he'd be better off signing to Ambitious Entertainment, which I agree with. I mean, how many artists in the entire world are actually happy about their deals? If Ye wasn't happy, if J. Cole was under 360, if Drake is suing Universal, bro, who the hell is Nasty C? And it takes me back to what he said on That's What's Up. He said was trying to get the mass appeal and ended up signing them bad deals. So I was even right, but everyone was saying I'm wrong, I'm hating, I'm this, I'm that. And I realized the biggest problem about hip-hop isn't the artists. It's the fans. How much of a do you have to be to accept anything your favorite artist gives you? People coming at us as content creators for the failures and mistakes of your favorite artists. You know? Someone said to me, damn, bro, you should be on 100K subs. And I said, people don't like me. But the ones that do, that actually means the world to me because they can actually see I'm being genuine. You know, I realized I'm hated when I saw an audience of over 40K people on my channel, but I'm only reaching 8,000 subscribers right now with over 1 million views already. How does that work? Because I'm not saying what people want to hear. I want to say to y'all, if you are Nasty C and A-Reese fan though, you're about to hate me. Because there's a lot to break down from these projects. There's a lot I want to talk about. There's a lot they revealed. There's a lot of truths in this project. And I'm honestly going to tell it how it is. If only y'all knew how much I actually love A-Reese and Nasty C, you wouldn't be saying the things you're saying. For example, if your brother slapped your mom, would you be happy about that? Hell no. You'd call them, you'd like try to call them to order, or probably even slap them back. So for me, I think the SA hip-hop community has fans that are choosing glazing over growing. And I want to talk to like OK Swisher, Peter G, Mswenko, whoever is a hip-hop content creator. I just don't know a lot of them off the top of my dome. But we need to call the crap. We need to put an end to all this like glazing and all of this and opinions being called hating. We need to put an end to that. And I think we're the only ones who can put an end to that. If we start being real and we start saying how we actually feel about certain projects, about certain songs that drop, about certain artists, the game won't be here. Let's make this game tough. Hip-hop back in the day was for tough people with a tough skin. Couldn't be here if a nigga said your album is whack and then you start crying and saying, blogs, this and this. That wasn't hip-hop. That is not hip-hop. Really. So, to all the content creators out there, especially the big ones like OK Swisher, Peter G, Mswenko, we need to literally change the game. I think it's up to us right now.